Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood game master, Zach Hall here. Thought I'd do a quick, well, it probably won't be quick, a video of me prepping for my next Pathfinder 2E session coming up in just a couple days. We're transitioning to going digital for everything but our dice rolls. So my players' character sheets and my maps are going digital this next session. Several different reasons we are moving to digital. I'm going to be running the Rise of the Rune Lord adventure path, converted from 1E to 2E, probably potentially in the middle of my next session, have some downtime, really do some good role playing, which we haven't really had the opportunity to do in the beginner's box. The beginner's box is a really well constructed dungeon crawl to introduce beginners and new players to a lot of different, but let's dive in. So I do a lot as far as extra things that you absolutely do not have to do. But one of the things my players have really enjoyed is using, I have an iPad and I use my tablet to have Syrinscape up and running, and I've purchased a sound set for the beginner's box. I've also, I think I ended up just getting, once my players reacted so strongly to it in our first session, I went ahead and got the Pathfinder subscription through Syrinscape that gives me access to the entire Rune Lord, Rise of the Rune Lord set, which is going to be really, really cool. So the cool thing about Syrinscape, obviously runs on several different devices, but they do have a native iOS app, which is great for me. Let me bump over to show you my browser here. So I've got my, this is at Syrinscape.com. If you've never used Syrinscape before, highly suggest it because it is very cool. Kind of like pre-made soundboards and sound sets where it's very easy to just kind of move from one to the other. My players reacted incredibly strongly to it, saying it really helped immerse them and gave them those wonderfully coinciding moments where something is narrated and the sound set just happens to do something right at the right moment. My players have like they get chills. That's what they're kind of talking about for a few minutes. And so using Syrinscape has kind of become like something I absolutely want to do. And one of the reasons why I was excited to run Rise of the Rune Lords was because I've been working with Paizo for a long time, and the Rise of the Rune Lords has their own sound sets too. So I'm here in my Syrinscape campaign manager, which is awesome because I can, instead of having to kind of navigate, they have so many sound sets and their naming conventions aren't always super clear, but I can come into the web browser tool called their campaign manager. I've created a Pathfinder campaign. You can already see my beginner's box sound set here. All I have to do is drag over probably the first two Rune Lords sound sets. I've got one for the attack on Sound Point and one local heroes. I believe this is basically book one. Glassworks 2 is over here. So like you can kind of see all of book one being here. They've even got some a goblin conversation in German, which is really, really cool. So, but yeah, you can kind of see here how like it seems like they've got basically the full adventure. So now that I've got those two things set into my sound set. So at the table, I normally just have my iPad with me behind my GM screen, and then connected to honestly a small Bluetooth speaker I've had for years. I just set it down on the table right in front of my GM screen, pointed to the players, and just kind of rely on them to tell me when it's loud enough or if it's too quiet, or if I forget to turn it on. They're like, hey, Zach, can you like, do you have sound for this? Like, if I miss it, somehow they are asking for it. So here on my iPad, let me switch back to my full cam. On my iPad, I've got access to all these sound sets. I'm going to click over and it's got my path in like kind of the collapsed menu. My Pathfinder campaign is in here. And so you can see like Menace of Atari, the beginner's box. Let me actually turn the volume up and let me just turn on the Cinder Rat fight from the bottom level. Really, really cool. So all that just kind of runs automatically. I need to install or pre-download the 2 new Runelord sound sets so that I'm not relying on an internet connection waiting there. So get to this screen, it basically just says install this sound set. It tells you how big it is. So now it's going to download really quick. Will take maybe about 60 seconds or so. So I'll have that downloaded, and then basically each scene is already set up for me. I don't have to do any customization or work on my end. Syrinscape creates a scene for basically every scene that you would have. The local heroes set looks like basically just role playing. It's got, let me turn my volume back up. So it's got a Main Street sound, which I would probably just open with, and it's the first kind of scene on here. Then got the market, which I might use during the festivities portion if I'm looking at all this right. I actually think this comes second now that I'm looking at this. Let me stop that and go ahead and install Attack on Sandpoint. Because I have a feeling it won't just be the goblin fights. There will probably also be like a ceremony sound set. But yeah, Syrinscape has become kind of a, can't do without part of my... I use prep incredibly loosely because now I will probably... I won't have to actually prep anything with Syrinscape. Now that I've got those 2 sound sets in my campaign and downloaded onto my iPad, I really don't have to do any prep. I just click on the next scene as it goes. I don't feel the need to customize them at all. So it's been pretty easy. So the next tool I want to show you guys is the tool I'm going to use to display my digital maps. And this is probably somewhere between, it's not the simplest I could go, but it's also not the most complicated. I'm not using Foundry, even though Foundry seems to be the default go-to digital tool set for running Pathfinder 2e right now, especially while a paid, professionally developed tool set like Pathfinder Nexus from Demiplane is still very under construction. They pretty much just have a compendium available right now. Once their character builder and campaign tools are more available, I'll probably end up looking into it more. I really enjoyed using D&D Beyond when I was playing and running a lot of 5e games. I know it's controversial because it required extra money, which I think people understood if you were new to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition like I was, where I didn't really have any expectations that I would get access to digital tools for free. I think this turned into a side rant about Pathfinder Nexus now. But anyway, I think it's a harder sell with Pathfinder players and GMs, especially long-standing ones in the community that are aware and know that there are free tools available, like Path Builder, Wanderer's Guide, and there is still like some professional tools that you do need to pay for, but like Hero Lab that has a Pathfinder 2e functionality, but it seems like people have moved away from those, even though they have nice tools. It's still going to be a hard sell, but the reason why I will do it is because tools like Path Builder don't have campaign tools yet. It's like when my players were creating their level 2 characters in Path Builder, all they can do is send me a like shared URL. I don't, as a GM, I can't go in and have a page where all my players' PCs are on like a single page, which would be nice. Or as the GM, I can select what access they have to certain types of sources, or the ability to quickly see, like, we're planning on using Path Builder in game to, track things like spell slots and HP and conditions and things like that. So being able to see or set those myself as a GM would be incredible. And I'm assuming those tools will be available at Pathfinder Nexus. I also don't mind paying to support something that I'm going to use a lot. Not to say I don't support the freely available ones. I'd be happy to show my Patreon receipt for the month for all the digital creators that I support through, whether it's Path Builder. I think I subscribe and support to both Path Builder and Wanderer's Guide. I'm a paid subscriber to the tool I'm about to show y'all. But anyway, I'm probably going to cut all that out because it was a complete tangent. The next tool I want to show y'all is the virtual tabletop tool that I'm going to use to show my map and tokens. So I'm going to have I've purchased a 32-inch 720p, very cheap TV, open box from a local Best Buy store. I think I got it right at $100. The reason why I got this TV is its price. I don't think 720 over 1080 is going to be a huge deal for what we're using it for, which is a lot of off-axis, not optimal viewing angles, for battles scenes. I don't think that extra bit of high quality for the images is really going to make too much of a difference. I might report back and say, yeah, I need to get a 1080p version. But the biggest reason why I was able to get it is because it actually already has a flat back. So while I have spent some money for a wood case to enclose my TV in to be able to make it easier to put on top of the table, that I got that from Etsy. I'll include a link to the Etsy store that I've purchased mine through. I just bought it this weekend, so it hasn't come in yet. But I'll include a link to it if you're interested in that kind of thing and making a similar transition for digital maps for in-person play. But the tool that I am using is called Owlbear Rodeo, and you might have heard of it. They've been around for several years, but the version I'm using is actually their 2.0, which is currently in beta. It's available at owlbear.app. The 1.0 is still up and running at the time of this video recording. That's at owlbear.rodeo. But owlbear.app is where their 2.0 browser-based virtual tabletop toolset is located, and I really enjoy it. I think it is well worth all the energy the dev team has been putting into. I believe it's a married couple who started out as a side hustle and is now, hopefully transitioning into either a second job or a first job that is supporting them and their family. It's really, really great. It has some of the best map grid matching tools that I've ever seen. A lot of the defaults are incredible, but you can also, if you're a paid subscriber, you can do monthly or annual subscriptions. You get cloud storage space to be able to upload your own image assets for your battle maps, your own custom tokens, etc. I just think it's great. I used Owlbear Rodeo 1.0, but the biggest hurdle to me using 1.0 was that nothing was saved in the cloud. Everything was saved locally in your browser memory, which meant that it was pretty difficult for me to prep because I'm often prepping here at my workstation, which is a Windows 11 desktop running on Firefox. When I game, I am usually on my MacBook Pro running Safari or Firefox. Not that you can't move things between those two things. It was just, it took too much effort, honestly, for me. I'm a pretty lazy GM, and ascribe to that philosophy of game prep as much as possible. Being able to pay $40 a year and have all of my maps and stuff stored in the cloud that I can access both here and on my laptop. And if we ended up having to play remotely, like we have that ability too, has been great. So owlbear.app, I'll come up and show you. I'll head into my room, which is what they kind of call these always on. Once you're a paid subscriber, you get access to custom rooms that are available to you 24/7. If you are not paid and running on the free tier, which you can absolutely still do, I believe the rooms disappear after a certain time limit of like 6 to 8 hours. So that subscription tier of playing for free for probably best for folks that aren't looking to pre-plan a map, just want to grab their like default dungeon floor mat and use their default, albeit very high quality and really cool tokens. Not something you would pre-plan unless you did it like the day of or a couple hours before. So we jump into my room, and you can see I've already set up the began setting up the scene, the first scene in Rise of the Rune Lords. This is a map I got from a Patreon creator. I believe it's called Caen, Caen. Patreon, Cean. So I'm not sure how you'd pronounce that, but this is their page. I was extremely happy to pay for the beginning of their Patreon just this month, once I realized this creator has recreated for digital and virtual tabletop all of Rise of the Rune Lord. And so I was able to download all of book 1 last week, and here in OBR have uploaded the map they created, and got it here. And you can see these are my PC's tokens. I'm super excited. One thing I've been doing kind of off screen is getting tokens for like the townspeople. So we can open up my images, go to NPCs. Where's my file explorer? Drag this off screen, and I will begin uploading some. I'll grab a couple of NPCs from the town that I know are in this scene. So I believe we'll just say like Kendra Devrin is the mayor. Gonna drop her in. Abstelar Xantis is the new, I believe that's the new like head priest or chief. Who else? Sava Bavinki is armorer, I believe. So I'm putting this into a folder called NPCs. This is a custom folder I was able to make. In my files, my file names for all these, I was able to drop, if you put 1x1, like 1 by 1, assuming you're playing on a 5-foot grid and your creatures are medium or small and take up 1 square on the grid, Owlbear Rodeo will automatically recognize the 1x1, 1 by 1 in the file name and pre-align, like pre-size that token to fit. But so if we come into edit and come to manual controls, you can see that it's already set column 1 to 1. I had the underscore in here because I was using it to organize my tokens for ones that I needed. So all these looks like they imported correctly 1 by 1. So now that I'm done, I'm here in my characters. I can click open my NPC folder and drag in Kendra. And so you can now, if I click on her, her name kind of pops up here. And she can move around. I like to have colored rings on top of, or I use a token maker. There's a browser version that I've used before. Let me see if I can, yeah, token stamp 2 from rolladvantage.com. This is like, it's pretty simple, but it does exactly what you need it to. So if you find an image, assuming that you are not creating a commercial product, and you are playing at home and you feel comfortable using art or images that you got from online somewhere, or you pay for art from a creator, you can just drag and drop. Let me see if I can grab some art really quick. Let me see. That was a weird noise that I just made. So here I've saved the art for, here's my friend's angsty hot ranger character. So I just dragged that over from my files that I have saved. You can just move this around. You can resize to get it right. You can come in and change what like you want a skinny thing. Do you want it to be square? Do you want it to have this kind of like fiery effect? I like to go kind of thin, and then you can change the color of that. And I give each of my PCs a color, and then I try to give all my NPCs this kind of silver-y look. And then you just hit download, and you can download it as a PNG. Really, really cool. Token stamp 2 from rolladvantage.com. So we've got Kendra, who is the mayor. We've got Abstelar. I believe he's the new priest for the rebuilt cathedral. And then just randomly somewhere, I'll drop Sava over, who is the local armorer. And then I haven't set up my goblins yet, but kind of over here, Owlbear Rodeo has default monsters that I've organized into a monster folder. Ooze, Celestial, Undead. One of them is Goblin. Do they match the Pathfinder 2E kind of art style for goblins? No. But for a placeholder for now, I can just drag over some goblins that I'll probably end up replacing with some art from the like Pathfinder bestiaries and make my own tokens, or if I can find some freely available ones. And then I can come in and I can hide these, or use the keyboard shortcut H to hide them so that they're visible on my screen but not visible on my player's screen. So what will happen, this URL is just available and up and running. I'm going to go full screen now to hide some of that. My players, what I'll end up doing is opening up an incognito window, paste that URL in, and have that connected on my monitor, which my players will see on the other side of my GM screen, and I'll control all the tokens and stuff from here on my personal computer. Really cool. I just really, really like it. One of the biggest things that I don't have an example to show right now, though I guess I can. Let me, if I go to my maps, I'm just gonna grab the festival grid, the festival map that I got from, I'm gonna say Sean, Cean, Sean Maps. I apologize if that creator ends up watching this and I'm butchering their name. But I'm gonna grab the festival map again with a grid, and I'm gonna drag it in just to show you how y'all how easy it is to line up the OBR grid with the grid present on the map, because it's so simple, it's so brilliant. I love what the OBR developers for 2.0 did here. So as it loads, you can see the white dotted line is the OBR grid, and the black is the from on the map, which they don't line up. So I'm gonna hit this. You can, if you know ahead of time, if a creator tells you how many columns and rows you are, you can pre-put those in. And honestly, like, it's possible that just by switching it to like being in the middle instead of on the right, that might fix it if you already know how many column and rows you are. This didn't quite fix it yet. So I'm gonna click on the transform. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pan. So the map controls are here. You can see the it's not in an ideal spot for me. I'm not sure why it chose that spot to line up, so I don't have as much room, but you can see I need to kind of shrink here. I'm gonna move this to the corner, which I think is gonna make it a little easier for me. The first time I did this, the tools were already in the corner for me. I didn't have to do it. Not a huge deal. So then I can grab this side, and for like big moves, I can move the resize the grid to try to get them lined up, and that looks pretty close. But then if you, instead of grabbing the actual thing, if you come over here and you can see the tool kind of changes into this thing, moving it is a lot more granular and lets you kind of grab things, move it a lot slower, and bam, that's pretty much it. And you can, so the thing to kind of test with this is go to like the opposite end of your map to see if it is still in line. And as you get to the end, you can see it's kind of, it's moved a little bit. So I'm gonna try to bump it over. Oh, I need to go the other way. Yeah. Vertically, it looks good. Yeah, sweet. So that's it. I mean, just by a couple of drags, but just the fact that they have the big macro movements and then the smaller movements make it so easy to adjust your maps for whatever size they might be. And then hit save, boom, you've got your festival grid. And then, so now that map is sitting here in my map window, and can just drag it over here. So you can have multiple maps on the same scene. I haven't come up with a necessarily a reason why that might be helpful. But one thing that could be helpful, you can also hide maps that are by default locked, but you can just hide them. One thing I have contemplated is that you could have two maps sitting on top of each other with one, like if it was layers of a building and they go up the stairs and you don't have to move the tokens, you then just reveal the second story or the base or the basement that then ends up on top of the other map, and the tokens are all in the same place, which is really cool. I just really like it. So in addition, so I've showed you the two basics, the tokens, like character tokens, which are in this character menu, maps, which are in this first menu. There's also things like props, which I have found some really cool. It comes by default with things like spell effects, which, you know, maybe helps you measure a line or a cone or an area of effect. You can transform it and it will tell you like, oh, this is 40 feet. Now this is 30 feet. So I can move that to my character and that's how far I can get, blah, blah, blah. Delete that. But one cool thing that you can also use props for is the I got these condition cards from a creator on Reddit that is extremely helpful. So let's say one of my characters is stunned and we've kind of forget, or maybe we just want to remind ourselves what stunned does and that someone is stunned. I've got this condition card with the stunned description on it, but with this really cool art that's been made. And now it's sitting here on the view, but above my maps. So basically, if you go look at this menu, everything is in order from bottom to top if you were going to layer things on top of each other. So the map is the bottom-most layer, props, which these cards are, is the second most. Then I have mounts, which I haven't figured out a good use for. That's not something I normally look to visualize in my digital maps. But if my player was playing like a cavalier or someone who did use a mount a ton, it's a built-in functionality. You then have characters. Then I have attachments, which the creator of these condition cards also created these little tokens that when you drag over, when you hover over them or when you're dragging them before you let go, if you put them on top of a token, this token is now attached to this attachment. So I can move the token and the stunned kind of condition ring stays on top of him. And the way that the creator got them or created them with transparency is that you can still see the art and stuff below it, so you know which token's which. And then you can just, when you click on it, this is the Bertrand token. If I click up here and I actually get the stunned, you can see stunned, hit delete, boom, make those disappear. Really, really cool functionality from OBR, which is then expanded by things you can do and upload or other content creators can get. I do not know of a quick way to get that find that Reddit thread again, but I will find it between me recording this and posting it and have a link to it in the doobie-doo, because they are created specifically for Pathfinder 2e, English and Spanish versions, which I thought was really, really cool. OBR comes by default with condition tokens specifically made for 5e. So some of those might work if the condition is the same or named the same. But I just went ahead and started looking and found these condition token things for Pathfinder, which is really, really cool. And that's basically it. Between Syrinscape, the token maker from rolladvantage.com, Owlbear Rodeo, the new version, owlbear.app, depending on when you see this video, they might have already migrated over to 2.0 completely. And you can just find it probably at owlbear.rodeo instead. If you're coming to this video and you've been using Owlbear Rodeo 1.0 for years and didn't realize 2.0 was coming and maybe aren't looking forward to the pricing changes, I have really good news. The developers of Owlbear Rodeo are so awesome. They are releasing 1.0 as an open source project that you can download and run locally on your own machine the same way that you would Foundry. So if you're an OBR 1.0 fan and don't mind the fact that everything is stored in your browser memory and aren't wanting to migrate to 2.0, either because the pricing structure changed or just you're a fan of what you already have and don't want to change, 1.0 will be available to you as open source. Maybe a little bit of work to get it configured correctly, but if you've used Foundry in the past and got it to work, I don't see why OBR 1.0 would be any more complicated than that. So just incredible work from the OBR team. The community is super appreciative. I know I am super appreciative. Was happy to jump in as a early subscriber during the beta period. But yeah, so that's kind of how I'm prepping for sessions now, or at least the tools that I'm going to be using to prep. I haven't actually prepped anything. I've still got to finish creating some tokens trying to create a specific token for all the NPCs, which I will then probably move into one big document that I might end up printing out so I can have a picture of their physical description, and their name, and maybe just a couple lines on, who they are, what they do, if the adventure provides any personal details. And then then I can kind of leave a note if I decide to do a voice for someone, and I need to remember what voice did I do for this person. I'm not a voice actor. I generally don't do a ton of voices because I'm not good at them, but sometimes you just kind of get into a mode, and if there's an NPC that I know is going to be around for a long time, I will try to do something at least semi-distinctive from my own voice. But yeah, these are all the tools that I use. Syrinscape, Token Maker 2 from Roll Advantage, Owlbear Rodeo for my virtual tabletop, and then everything is just stuff I've had at home. A printer to print things, Bluetooth speaker for audio, cheap TV to do my digital maps on. I've looked at, going ham and really like tricking out. I've looked at, and these things I might be wanting to do in the future, like having a specific table that I run my games on. I've looked at installing like a mini ductless AC system in my garage. We don't park our garages. We don't park our cars in garages. We use it for storage. So putting an air conditioning unit out there so that we could be comfortable in all seasons, and sitting out there and having a like preset table always ready to go would be pretty awesome. That's a bit of a pitch to my partner, but that's kind of the dream. And at that point, it's like, okay, if I've got a set table, like if I buy something cheap from IKEA or do something much bigger, then, maybe I, customize it with, like power connections and LED lights that are smart that I could run and like use to enhance combat, or like setting a scene somehow, connecting Syrinscape and lighting through something like a Steam Deck, where I could create like multi-step actions with one button. I can switch the sound set and set a light, like a coloration or like a lighting effect. These are all things that I think are fun, and are fun things to kind of DIY, weekend night projects types things. I'm kind of excited that I've moved to digital maps because I'm way more comfortable doing digital things instead of physical things. I'm not a mini painter. I'm not a collector. So the tokens were really huge, but now that it seems like Paizo's doing away with Adventure Path pre-made tokens, it seems like not something that I want to spend a lot of time on if I'm not going to be able to get, an adventure pack token set. So, yeah, I'm really excited. I hope this was useful. I will probably end up doing, this video is probably trimmed down a ton from what I recorded, because I recorded 45 minutes. I bet maybe 30, maybe 25 of it is useful to you. But maybe this was showed you a tool you didn't know existed that you needed, or maybe gave you the courage to try something new, like switching to digital maps if you've got the hardware and stuff at your home to do it. But all of this is still absolutely useful to you if you play online. Owlbear Rodeo is not for in-person play, though it's totally usable that way. It's for playing online. You can have player accounts where they join your room, and it works just like any other virtual tabletop, just without the character sheets and the automations. It's just for maps and tokens and stuff you can visually see. If you like the idea of Syrinscape, but you're playing digitally, I have great news. They have a web player where you can create, like, put all that stuff in your campaign, like I showed you, they have another tool for their web player. Then just share a URL with all of your players, and they load that up in their browser in a new tab, put their headphones on, and as you change the sound, it changes automatically for everybody. So everybody's hearing the same thing. So you can absolutely translate this to either in play or completely digital online play. So hope this is helpful. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, subscribe. I will continue making this style of content specifically for Rise of the Rune Lords. Do some like post session campaign diary type stuff. If I ran across any technical hurdles that I wasn't going to be aware of that I now need to fix, I'll create content around that. And if there's a specific digital tool that you'd like my thoughts on, leave it in the comments below. What kind of setup does your table have? Are you running in person with digital tools like me? Are you playing online and you think something you use might be useful to me and my players? Absolutely, let me know. And I'll continue creating stuff as long as you guys like it. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.